Hello, my friends. Jarrett Dukes at your service. Once again, we are in the middle of going through recent comments by former President Donald Trump right outside his New York hush money trial, and we're going to dive right into it and talk about it.
At the bookkeeping era, I paid a lawyer a certain amount of money. We marked it down as legal expense. So I had a legal expense, and I marked it down as a legal expense.
Imagine this particular comment in your mind. You hire a lawyer, a licensed lawyer in the state of New York to give you legal advice and consultation. This lawyer, of course, is Michael Cohen. He gives you the advice you should take as far as how to file a particular legal expense or how to handle a certain problem. You follow this licensed lawyer's advice, and now the state of New York, the people that are actually in charge of licensing these lawyers, wants to go ahead and put you incarcerated because you followed the advice of your attorney. Outrageous!
I didn't mark it down as construction of a wall, construction of a building. I didn't mark it down as electricity cost. I took a legal expense and they called it, I didn't do it, a bookkeeper did it. You did it exactly right. Took a legal expense and called it a legal expense. This is their whole case. Are you allowed to call a legal expense a legal expense? I don't know what else you'd call it, actually.
He's exactly right about that. I want to make sure you clearly understand this. This whole case is a documents case, and it boils down to this. When he wrote, or I should say had Michael Cohen, his licensed lawyer, write out these particular checks to pay Stormy Daniels to keep quiet, which is not illegal. You need to make sure you understand that. Paying people to shut up, essentially, is not illegal. That's what he did. That's what he admitted he did. Nothing is illegal about that. The only thing that is that question is what the president is talking about right now. Should it have been considered a campaign expense, or should it have been considered a personal expense? And as we've been talking about on this particular channel, it really wouldn't matter either way, because this particular DA would have found a way to indict former President Donald Trump no matter what. Had he called it a campaign contribution, they would have said, oh, no, you did that to protect your family and protect your wife from finding out. That should have been a personal expense. You use campaign funds for that. We're going to indict you for misusing campaign funds. In this particular case, former President Donald Trump, rightly so, realized that this is something that could affect his family, and he went ahead and paid for it personally. Really a whole lot to do about nothing. But folks, make no mistake about it, this is all about the Joe Biden White House and their woke collaborators trying to take down former President Donald Trump.
But he brings it up here, the legal expense. It was, what's the problem? I never thought that as an attorney I could see a system like New York's, one of the most sophisticated legal bars in the world, really debase itself so badly. This judge should not be allowed in the case, and he should not allow this case to go forward. Mercian should rule in favor of a directed verdict immediately. There is an insufficient amount of evidence. No crime has been shown.
Of course, this judge is going to basically not do his job. Rarely, admittedly, do they ever give a directed verdict in a case. In any case, especially a high-profile case like this, basically a directed verdict is when the defense says, hey, judge, the state did not meet their required burden of proof in a particular case, or that there's just no case, period, and the judge should dismiss the case. But of course, we know that this Judge Merchan is nothing more than a Democratic operative. And it is so humiliating on the world stage, so unfair and so wrong for our country. We can only hope somehow, some way that this judge will do the right thing, but I'm not betting on it, nor should you.
No crime's been committed. There's been no crime. Judge Janine Bueno, she talks here. She's very excited here. He's a fool. He's not an experienced judge, so I'll make that one a little short. I don't want to insult anybody.
Well, we all know Judge Janine Bueno on Fox News. I love her, and I think for the most part she's normally right on, and you heard what she said. I happen to totally agree with her comments.
Greg Jarrett, brilliant guy. Bragg's argument is legally flawed. The Federal Election Commission, FEC, determined there was no campaign finance violation. The Department of Justice agreed. No civil fine was levied or criminal charge rendered. Those two entities have exclusive authority over federal elections. The state has absolutely no authority, and the city Bragg has no authority, and Bragg never wanted to bring this case, in all fairness to him.
Remember, none of the alphabet agencies like the Department of Justice, the other individuals on the federal and state level in charge with enforcing federal and or state laws, none of them wanted anything to do with this case. Originally, Alvin Bragg, the DA out of New York City, didn't even want to touch this case. But obviously, Joe Biden, his associates decided that he had to go forward with this case because their objective, folks, as we have talked about many times on this program, is to stop President Trump no matter what. Because they know if we make it to Election Day and Donald Trump is still around, is still on the ballot, they're going to lose. And that scares these people to death.
He never wanted to bring this case. Not a local prosecutor such as Alvin Bragg should be involved in this case. And by the way, the judge, as you know, is totally conflicted, and everybody's talking about it. It's an embarrassment to New York. Legal analyst Michael Moore of CNN.
Not only, folks, is this judge conflicted, this judge is corrupt. His own daughter is a Democratic operative. She just doesn't work for the Democrats occasionally. She is a big-time operative. Published reports have stated she has grossed at least $93 million on behalf of Democrats and Democratic candidates. Her clients currently consist of President Joe Biden, the Vice President Kamala Harris, and the favorite representative from California, Adam Schiff. And as I always say, we know what former President Donald Trump calls Adam Schiff.
Doesn't think the prosecution has proven its case. Senator John Kennedy, respected gentleman, I will tell you that trial says more about politics than it does about an alleged crime. If you want to hide something from Bragg, you put it in the law book. Bringing in a fellow criminal trial, it hasn't proved to be a felony. There was no crime. Everybody's saying there's no crime. There is absolutely. But I've been here for almost 4 weeks in an icebox. I call it the icebox, listening to a judge who's totally corrupt and conflicted.
Remember this, pertaining to the United States Supreme Court, you know, Clarence Thomas, who is one of the justices on the United States Supreme Court, he's always under constant criticism because his wife works for the Republicans. And they're always like, you need to recuse yourself. You need to remove yourself. That is the refrain of every single Democrat, every chance they get. And of course, when it applies to Republicans, or in this case, former President Donald Trump, oh, guess what? Judge Merchant, he doesn't see it that way. Just because in his mind, his daughter is a huge Democratic operative. No, that's no reason for him to step down. Just because Judge Merchant has been appointed by Democrats and is a known Democrat does not mean he can't set in judgment of former President Donald Trump. Crazy, outrageous.
Will Scharf, highly respected lawyer, hush money, it's not a crime. Signing an NDA is not a crime. By the way, Congress, everybody in Congress have NDAs. NDAs are very common. Non-disclosure agreements, they're not a crime.
It's important to remember that, as we talked about, NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, are perfectly legal. There is nothing illegal about having a conversation with someone saying, hey, how about I pay you money, and in exchange, I have the rights to whatever it is you have to say or have to offer. And in return, you're going to be quiet and not say nothing to anyone else pertaining to whatever the subject matter may be concerning.
Claimant, CBS Morning News, there's no evidence that this case is about campaign election violations. There's no evidence. But again, we go back to the federal law. The FEC, Federal Election Commission, said there's not a problem, there's no case. And Vivek, who's here right now, so he can speak for himself, he said this is a sham trial. It's politically motivated. It's an assault on the leading candidate for U.S. president. I would expect he would say something good, actually, so I won't go through the rest, but he's here. He's going to talk to you. The Speaker of the House is here.
Yeah, I love it the way former President Donald Trump has been bringing in surrogates. It's a good workaround on this outrageous, unconstitutional gag order imposed by Judge Merchant. And I love the fact that Vivek is there. And Vivek is definitely a good advocate for President Donald Trump. And he is an articulate, charismatic speaker and does well when he's speaking to and for the President of the United States. And in this case, former President Donald Trump.
We have Byron Donalds, Corey is here. We have a lot of great people here to talk to you. And they won't let them speak here. I guess they want to make it difficult for them to speak. So for some reason, I can speak here, but I'm the only one that's allowed. The gag order has to come off. So when you ask me a question about the people that we're talking about, I'm not allowed to answer. There's never been anything like this in the history of our country. It's a scam. It's election interference at a level that's never taken place before. And now, if you don't mind, I'm going to go into the icebox and sit for a long time. Thank you very much.
Folks, President Donald Trump is not exaggerating. This is absolutely unprecedented. Never before has what's called a prior restraint been imposed against a former president of the United States. And I'm talking, of course, about this particular gag order. And I have never seen it where a gag order is taken out against a defendant. Normally, a gag order is imposed upon people that may testify, especially the prosecutor's office is generally who you see a gag order taken out against, or at least both parties, meaning the prosecution and the defense. But you never have I seen it. Have you seen it where a judge orders an unconstitutional gag order against a defendant, especially a defendant who is running for president of the United States, and not just running, is the leading candidate to win president of the United States this year? Absolutely outrageous, unprecedented, and unbelievable. Folks, this is the type of thing that happens in Russia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Cuba. It is a shame now the United States has joined this type of group of individuals. The United States no longer has the moral high ground to tell other people how to have elections and conduct open, fair, and free elections. One of the previous videos I did, I showed an individual, a lady, that wanted to run against the current president of Russia, and they simply said, no, you can't run. They found her paperwork to be out of order, and they removed her off of the ballot or refused to let her get on the ballot. It's the same way that the state of Colorado and the state of Maine has treated former President Donald Trump, until the United States Supreme Court, of course, has stepped in and said that's nonsense and we are not going to allow it. Remember, their entire game, the Democrats' game, is to keep former President Donald Trump tied up in court to where he cannot be out campaigning. They want to label him as a felon. A felon. And the reason they want to do that so bad is so President Joe Biden can say, hey, I'm not going to debate a felon. He is a convicted felon. And because of that, I'm not going to be on the same stage with him, because it's beneath the dignity of the office to be in the vicinity of somebody that is a convicted felon. This is their whole game, folks. Keep President Joe Biden hidden away like they did back in 2000, and to do everything in their power to undermine former President Donald Trump. And I will continue to tell you the truth. Now, the president may not be able to speak, but I can speak, and I will tell you the truth as I see it. I appreciate you joining me. If you haven't done so already, you might as well hit the thumbs up button, subscribe so you get my videos as they're coming out. It is always a pleasure to have an opportunity to chat with each and every one of you. I always say, keep that mind free and never give up. And until next time, my friends, I am J.R. Dukes.